Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Afternoon? Isn't it still morning?
Who knows when they're listening?
Oh, well, I'm just talking about our current, situation.
We'll go 2/3 of the nations in the afternoon.
Yeah.
True. That's facts.
The update show you guys never wanted, but you got anyways. Here we are.
Yep.
I've been trying to dive into sports. There's nothing going on. Super Bowl, blowout and boring. All-Star Weekend, a fucking joke. What else we got? UFC's probably holding up sports right now, sadly. Every sport in the goddamn world's dying. There's All-Star Weekend's here in NorCal, and no one cares. Nothing happened. It was in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Barry Bonds was there. Jerry Rice. They coached some of the celebrity game. No one gave a shit. I want to care, man. I need something to care about.
Well, spring training is actually spring training games start this week.
Here? No. Arizona only.
Arizona, yeah.
I feel even baseball.
And Florida.
Baseball's just in the same spot basketball is. You can't, it's going to be so hard for people to care unless you're a baseball nut. And I'm a basketball nut, but you just can't care. It's too long. It's too long for everything. And maybe it's our ADHD getting cranked up by TikTok, but I feel like it's kind of been that way. You know, the guys can't play as hard as they want. Baseball's a little different, obviously, because you have rotations and shit. But, basketball, you just can't play as hard as you want for 82 freaking games for 9 months out of the year.
Load management has killed the interest in basketball.
Yeah. And even if they didn't, then injuries would probably go up. I don't know. Side note, I did see a cool, heartwarming shit. People say, TikTok, or I'm not on TikTok, but Instagram Reels or whatever is always, negative. There's, a bunch of cool shit from the Philadelphia parade.
Did you see the Kelsey brother flipping the helmet cart?
Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. Flip that fucking thing over.
Which one? Oh, was he
Jason?
Was he in the Philly parade?
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I only saw the heartwarming shit where Saquon Barkley, who I'm a huge fan of, is stomping down the street and just waving to fans. The buses and stuff are going by, but he's on the road hanging out, high-fiving people. He high-fives and he does a double take. And then it turns out it was one of the ball boys or something in the crowd. And he straight picks him up and drags him into the parade with him. It's you're with us, drags him with him. I was that was really dope. And then I saw another one where it was the training staff. And they had a sign, or maybe someone else had the sign for the staff on the bus, but I think it was the staff holding it. It said 21 to 22 starters who had opening day started in the league or in the season played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Which got to be, I don't know if it's a record, but that's got to be rare as shit in any sport, professional sport nowadays.
In terms of injuries and mid-season trades and all that.
Yeah. Let alone trades and shit. Yeah, the loyalty. I didn't even think of that. But injuries plus trades. I guess the NFL's trades I feel are a little less common or less active during season.
During the season, yeah.
Where baseball and basketball, people will be throwing people left and right. They don't give a shit. Yeah, I thought those two were cool, and that's my sports highlights.
I saw one where there's a dude in the crowd with a wheelchair, and the crowd just picks him up. and
crowd surfing?
Yeah, he's crowd surfing, and he's
yeah, it was fire.
It was fire.
There's obviously a bunch of negative ones, too, because I saw all the trash afterwards and how they fucked up the city when they won the Super Bowl, and I still don't understand that. And I know everyone says that, but it happens every major city. They'll win a championship, and then people are fucking tipping over.
It's because they're all. It's not that they're sober.
Yeah,
I think.
But I've just never been. I have been that drunk, but I've never drank so much and then just tipped over like a street light.
I've decided to destroy everything around me.
Yeah,
I'm so drunk.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever broken anything being drunk, and I've been really drunk. We've all had our years. And I've been, on the edge of major danger, and I've never just destroyed everything around me. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And so, poor Philly. But congrats on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was a boring game.
Yeah, I just watched it for some commercials. And
how on earth did Kansas City collapse so hard?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
After being dominant for,
the Eagles did get better.
Really.
Yeah, the Eagles did get better. The offensive line and defensive line are stacked. Not only did they throw up some of the stats at the size of those guys, but they are some of the best in the league. The stats were insane too. Don't quote me on it, but it said the starting O-line averaged 6'5" and like 320. And then they said, I don't know if it was the first Super Bowl or, some Super Bowl in like the 50s. It might have been the first Super Bowl. The average line was like 6 foot 240. And you're like, no way humans have we've definitely gotten fatter, but we haven't evolved. Like there's not, I mean, maybe I'm way off, but I don't think there's more 6'5" people now than there were in 1950.
Oh, I'm sure there probably are. Just, the epigenetic part of it. It's not really evolution. It's single generation, like maternal nutrition stuff.
I would think that
That's
would
a
go
good
backwards,
question.
though. Because, our nutrition is trash.
No, just in terms of, calorie surplus versus calorie deficit.
True. Yeah, I wonder. And there might be more in terms of actual people, just because our population's gone up, right? Like 1960, I think our world population was like 5.6 billion, and now we're like almost 9 billion. So I guess in that essence, it is true. But still, that's so drastic. 6 foot, and that's less than 100 years. That's I guess the point. Yeah, per capita, I guess is what I'm saying. But they probably don't even have those stats.
Bear with me, everyone.
Soon, within a year, we're going to have an AI co-host. And they'll just hear what I say, and they'll just fucking... I mean, we got Siri's right there. Yeah, they'll just fact check.
Yes, average human height is increased over the past century. The number of people over 6 foot is also increased. I don't know about 6'5", but 6
or per
foot.
capita. But yeah, for sure. If it's over 6 foot, then everything's leveraged up a little bit. But that many's crazy, and to be that skilled, like that athletic.
Yeah. How many people in the world over 6'7"? That's a question.
Less than fucking 5% for sure.
This is a Reddit post that has no listing to it at all. There's no receipts.
6'7"'s tall, man. Like I'm obviously not very social and go out a lot, but if you go out a lot, I bet you see 2 6'7" people a year.
One of our members, actually a couple of our members, are quite tall, and one of them is taller than Kyle, so he's got to be 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah, probably 6'7", because Kyle's like 6'5"-ish. Dan's about 6'5", 6'6". And that's fucking obviously insanely rare. But also, we hang out with athletes, or I do, and we met them through lifting, so that changes the ratio. But if you're out in public, like a normal ass life, you're seeing 1 6'7" person a year.
Probably, yeah.
Like they're just not around. They're not around. 6'7"'s fucking tall. Really fucking tall. I was talking to Shift Sports World, talking to our boy Justin. Shout out Justin, ex-Barber Brigade photographer, smart cat, and we were just chatting randomly. But he asked about powerlifting and meets and shit, and I kind of brought up, I was like, dude, I don't know if I don't think I'm that out of touch, because sometimes my interests, I really dive in. I don't know if it's I have long ADHD, so I'll go months and dive into one thing, and so I'll zone out. But I don't think, what's that?
The hyperfixation.
Yeah, but normally when they talk about it, they mean within the hour, mine's also within the hour, but mine are within months, trends or whatever. But still, everything that I enjoy is I'm always in it. I'm still always in basketball. I'm still always in fashion. I'm always in powerlifting. But it just feels like the sport. And I told him, I was like, I just feel like it's in a weird place. Not necessarily probably by the numbers, popularity's down, but I just feel like the momentum of the sport has gotten really stagnant. And I just kind of made that up verse on my feel, that was 100% feel. And then I wake up today, and that was over the weekend. And then I wake up today, and Joe Sullivan's doing a kind of a Q&A style thing, saying, is powerlifting dying? And I was like, oh, he feels it too.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, Joe's a very smart guy, one of the few that's still in the sport, that's been in it as long as me. And similar age, he might be a little bit younger than me, actually, but obviously very accomplished lifter and coach himself, and has his feet deep into the sport. And a lot of people were making up random stuff, because again, not to be elitist here, but some people are just new to the sport. So he basically said, "Why do you think this is happening?" And then he was sharing their answers. And people just say shit, I feel like, because they want to be part of the convo, which is great. Welcome to the convo. But they're just saying like too many federations and all this. I'm like, well, no.
That's always been the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that we just know probably aren't the issue.
Yeah.
And it actually, in the scheme of things, we probably have less federations now than ever. Just in terms of what's actually people are actually competing in. Because, the APA is around.
Yeah.
But in 2012, a lot of people that we knew, world record holders, were hopping in random APA meets or IPA or whatever. Now you don't hear that. It's like USAPL, Powerlifting America, and then what's the new, not UT something, whatever.
PU?
No, there's one random one. I could go on Joe's, whatever. That's kind of taken over the role of the WRC or the
WRPF.
Yeah, that's kind of taken that over. But regardless, so that's not it. And Joe kind of broke it down in all of them, and he thinks it's an entitlement. And maybe he's just turning into an old guy like me. But I think he might be right in some senses. And his main argument was kind of, or, I don't obviously want to speak for him, but I'm reading his stories. And what it seemed that he really believed in was that people don't want to travel and compete head to head or travel and go to big meets. They don't want to kind of be catered to with the best meat in the world right in front of them. And he's probably speaking more from the untested side because, we'll see this year's, I think, the big change for the USAPL, right, is going to be small this year or next year? Nats?
I think it's this year.
It's
I think
this
it's for sure,
yeah, where the quals just went through the roof.
Yeah.
Because that was like an event, like a community event in a sense, which made USAPL Nats cool, right? Like, yeah, we crowned a champion, but it was more cool that everyone just got together because a lot of people competed. And I probably arguing myself in that because I probably talk shit on it having too many people in the past. But the cool, you got to see the positive with the negative. The negative is, it's not as competitive because you have 100 people qualifying per weight class. But the cool part is it really brought the community together because people cared. And it was their excuse to go hang out and go. This year, I believe, both are in Atlanta, which is weird. I think US APL Nats and PA Nats are in Atlanta, which is kind of random.
That's a bit random. Yeah.
And Powerlifting America Nats have obviously been smaller because it's a new fed, and people really only go to qual for IPF. But entitlement might play a big part of it. Some people made a lot of jokes about egg prices, and that's why they can't afford to go to meets because their eggs are too expensive to get all their protein in, which may play a role. Like the economy does play a role, obviously, when you're talking about like a luxury sport, right? It's something that doesn't pay the bills, and if you're talking about competing at a high level or having families, and I wondered if it's maybe like an aging out thing.
Some of it has to be,
right? Especially in the untested, as natty powerlifting or whatever got more popular. Because back in the day, untested had 18-year-olds in there. Whether they were natty like me, just competing there, or just hopped on, in fucking high school. They were competing there, but that was much more common, I felt like, than now. Although I don't think steroids have gotten less common. They've probably gotten more common. Powerlifting America and USAPL made it cool to stay natty in a sense. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that the USAPL still being as big as it is, but not a path to international competition, like serious international competition at this point. I think that that's taken the shine off to a probably a huge extent.
Yeah,
like that. Decisions get made without respect to what impact it'll have on the life cycle of the sport itself. This and the dispute was stupid, and it's still stupid. And I think if the USAPL was still IPF affiliated, I think that we would probably see an attention drop still, but not the extent that we have now.
Yeah, my probably main argument, it's a little bit like Joe's too, would probably be that it's just hard. It's hard and it's boring. And so, like, everyone thought it was really cool. They hopped in it when they were 22, and then they stopped, Now everyone's fucking running, and they're these hybrid athletes, whatever the fuck that means. So they still, like, kind of lift, or or people are dabbling their toes in bikini and stuff. And we've talked about this, I think, with Dean and ourselves, where it is kind of the chapter of bodybuilding. You know, it's just more popular on the internet, so it's going to be more popular with people around. I think, you know, the barbell is slowly becoming cooler again, but you know, from 2020 to 2024, the barbell was lame. You're only using machines. You're only training for aesthetics. That's everyone on Instagram who has a following is like posing, and I was going to call him a poser, but both. they're a poser in the sense of they don't actually compete, but they got popular for posing as a bodybuilder, both literal and metaphorical.
Yeah.
And that's what the internet is you literally, every fitness thing you scroll through is someone posing whatever body part they just lifted and then sharing their workout. And that's just a copy pasta all over every social media, where very few of them are actual competitors. And there's no knock on that, right? Like, you don't have to compete. And I understand you want to make a living on the internet and you're copying what is successful. So I get it. I hate it, but at least I understand what you're doing there. So I do wonder, you know, in my eyes, powerlifting was in a really cool spot because of the community energy. And to me, it for it to succeed, yes, you need a clear champion type thing. You know, you need the IPF, or you need some world record people that are extreme pushing it. But the core has to be more like the 5K weekend runners, right? Where you're serious. Like, you're not just going to wake up and go run a 5K. Like, you have to kind of train, but you don't want to go to the Olympics. You know, your goal was never to go to the Olympics. And CrossFit obviously had that same kind of social aspect, right? Where Rich Froning's the star and all that's really cool, but there's millions of people that get after it really hard, but they have no goal to go to the games. They just, but they're tuned in. They want to know about the games, and they want to watch, and they want to, you know, and I just don't know what sport has that right now. Maybe bodybuilding, you know, maybe but again, I just don't know what local shows look like in that sport, and that might just be the internet. Like Sam Solik competing for the first time.
He won something, right?
I think he won the amateur in Vegas, and so I think, you know, I don't want to speak for him, and I don't follow him super closely. I just grazed that world, but his goal was to qualify for the amateur Arnold, and so he got into that. He's probably going to lean out and head over there in classic bodybuilding, which again, for that sport's great, right? Like, and Sam Solik, I think, is awesome because he is a content creator. He's done it his own way. I've never met the guy, but he does it his own way. He old school vlogs. He's very true to himself. And then he's a workhorse. Like, he clearly works very hard and is passionate about what he does. And so wherever he ends up, that's awesome. But, and that's great for that sport, and that'll draw a lot of, you know, popularity. But bodybuilding, the other thing, why I don't think it can have the setup that I'm talking about, where it's like this top layer of competitiveness and athletes, and this middle, in the bulk of people, which is always the bell curve, right? The bulk of participants being serious but casual. Bodybuilding can't do that because you can't step on stage even semi-casual, right?
No.
Like you can't even choose, like powerlifting. Anyone, we could grab any Joe Schmo off the street and say, "Hey man, 12 weeks, I'm going to get you on a powerlifting platform, and you're going to do good." And I could teach him from scratch. In 12 weeks, he could go on there and perform. You can't do that with bodybuilding. You have to have years of muscle and then 16 weeks of that thing, of that cut, or of that prep. And so that middle ground, where 5K, same thing, right? We grab a Joe Schmo and say, "Hey, man, we're going to go really hard for 16 weeks, 12 weeks, and get you into shape, and you're going to run a fucking 5K. It's going to be rad." And they could do that. And you just can't do that with bodybuilding, which I think does take away kind of that center piece of it. Despite, you know, my personal opinion of bodybuilding, where at the extreme levels, the guys seem very well natured in their expression of like human, you know, potential. They really want to push the body and see what it can do. Where in that bulk level of bodybuilding, it seems like it's just money and superficial. Like, because the outside world's always called bodybuilding superficial. But if you've ever chatted with a very successful bodybuilder, they're not. You know, like, you chat with Eric Helms and you call him superficial, like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he actually just wants to see what humans can fucking do. He does see it as an art. And I've never met C-Bomb, but here in his interviews, he seems very similar. Ronnie Coleman seems similar. Like, they just want to push the limits. They're not like, "Oh, I'm going to go get bitches and Lambos." but that bulk, again, and maybe it's me being critical, but the bulk, because of social media and because of the base layer of bodybuilding being superficial, those people end up being superficial, where I don't think, again, that takes away from that center community, the core of the sport just can't be as cool as powerlifting. And that's where powerlifting, to have a shine, has to have this. And again, I don't know what's missing from it. Probably it being boring, I guess.
Yeah, maybe so. Or just, I don't know, we kind of hit a pocket of young population that, you know, saw that as a way to make a mark. You know, I mean, even the ones that are casual have been very focused on goals and whatever. And you get older and your goals change, you know?
Yeah, it gets harder.
Yeah.
Right? You get kids or a job, or and just itself is hard. But again, like, that's the beauty in it. And that's what I think people are missing. And again, I sound like the old guy, but like, the beauty is that you're doing the same boring ass shit 5 days a week for 10 years, you know? And then you learn some shit. You don't learn it on the spot. You don't read a book. You read a book and you learn. Powerlifting's not like that. Like, you have to drag yourself through your shoulder has to hurt. You have to have tendonitis in every joint, and you still show up to train, and then you figure it out. Like, that's the lessons are in hindsight, right? We're reading classes. All those are direct transfer knowledge, learnings on the spot. But powerlifting, the beauty is in the pain. And I know that sounds so like stereotypical or like David Goggins type shit, but it is the truth. And so, to me, it sucks because people are leaving the sport before they get there. And again, I've left the sport. Last time I competed is fucking 2018, but I've deadlifted nearly every week since. And if I didn't deadlift, I squatted. And if I didn't squat, I fucking leg pressed my brains off. You know, like, every week I've done something to, again, feel that treachery, the walking through the mud, the quicksand of the beauty of the sport. And bodybuilding has that part for sure in it. I think it's just the background of what people do, or, you know, they can't continue to do that either. Because I think if you bodybuild for 10 years, you'll have the same results. But people don't do that as well.
You know, I think that's true. Bodybuilding is, to the outside world, absolutely superficial because they see it just about looks,
Right.
And that they don't really think about the work and people talk about the diet, but they don't really talk about the dieting.
Yeah. It's the mental part of dieting.
Yeah.
Actually, eating that food's easy, right? Like, the food isn't that gross.
Yeah.
It's just
not,
saying no to everything else in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a little bit like being a monk or, you know. So
again, the beauty in it's through that.
The sport of self-denial. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And I think the beauty of, like, every human trying to do that would be amazing. But again, you can't just hop into a bodybuilding prep.
No.
Right? Where, like, but you could do that in powerlifting. You can hop into 12 weeks. You can focus on your nutrition. Because, as soon as you can say no to every pizza, you can say no to every beer. And you can say no to every bad decision and every bad person in your life and all this stuff. Like, there's all these little lessons in there. But if you can't stick with something long enough, you know, and a lot of our world, I think, is just forcing that. Like, there's all those stats of, you know, back in the day, you would stay with the same job for 10 years because they're giving you a raise every 3 and you're moving up the ladder. Where now people are promoting and, like, teaching you to leave your job every 3 years because you're going to get a bigger raise when you transfer companies, which is true. And, like, you can't deny that, and you can't tell someone not to do it if it betters their life. But again, it doesn't have that. Yeah, I do just feel so old talking about it, but it's the same thing in sports. Why is the NBA crumbling? Because LeBron James played on 5 teams. You know?
Yeah.
Like, Jordan only left when the team actually crumbled. Like, they kicked him out of Chicago, basically, right? Kobe never left. Like, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played with 2 teams. Like, the magic of the loyalty of the grind of being on a bad team, being on a good team, being on a bad team, but fighting through that just, like, doesn't exist in our world. From the marketplace to fucking dating. You break up with your girl, you're right back on Instagram, fucking finding a new one. Like, all of it leads you to just, like, our whole society's built around grass is greener, and everyone could say that phrase over and over, but it's not how people are actually living or executing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Just not to change the subject, but did you by any chance watch the first episode of this season of White Lotus?
No, I've never. The 2 bangers I need to tap into are Severance. And
Yeah,
White Lotus.
I haven't watched Severance at all.
Everyone
I've
says
heard
it's
really good things about it. Never watched it.
Yeah, I don't know what either of them are about actually, but they're the only two shows that I hear are actually good. Because people are, the hype again. Talk about quick turnaround and news cycles. Like TV's the same way. Nothing's supposed to be good anymore, but those two people have stuck with and said they're hella good.
Yeah, I'm currently watching The Pit too, which is also great. It's
Really?
like, it's kind of like a spiritual sequel to ER, because it's Noah Wiley, who was by the end of ER, he was the main star of ER.
Dude, ER is like 30 years. I feel like.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I
couldn't keep up. My parents watched it as a kid, so it'd be on in like the background, but I've never actually watched it either.
It was supposed to be a direct sequel, but Michael Crichton wrote the book that ER was based on, and his estate would not give them the rights to make a sequel.
Yeah.
And so they changed some details. I mean, but it's very good, and it's told in the style of 24.
Oh yeah.
Like every hour is an hour of a 24-hour day.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really 24 hours. I think we're going to get 13 or 14 hours,
Sure.
something like that.
But like one piece of the day.
Yeah. No, really, really good. But White Lotus started during the pandemic because they had trouble finding any place that they could shoot. They could control for COVID.
Sure.
And Mike White was a creator, and the head of HBO said, "Do you have anything that could be shot kind of simply and work?"
Yeah.
And he said yes, even though he only sort of had an idea.
Yeah.
And wrote the first season, which was like 6 episodes, and they shot it in a hotel in Hawaii that was essentially empty because no one was traveling.
I remember hearing the story. Wasn't there's a parody made of that too, maybe?
Maybe, probably, I don't know.
Fuck, what was it called? It might have had Peel in it, but I think they made a parody of that where they flew everybody in and had them in a hotel, and it was just like a dumbass comedy. It wasn't funny at all, but the concept was the same.
Yeah. It's I just watched the first episode of the new season the other night. It's just intriguing the way the storytelling works, because there's like a basic template for every season.
Yeah.
There's usually,
what are we on then? 4 or 5?
3.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the template is that you see a dead body at the very beginning, and then the whole rest of most of the rest of the season is told in flashback. So it leads up to
a murder,
and you
or
don't know who the dead person is. You see the body, but you don't know who it is.
So it is kind of mystery-ish.
Yeah, it's mystery-ish, but the mystery is not the point. The point is really just how the people interact. It's a character study thing.
Yeah.
But this season's got a hell of a cast. I don't know. Walton Goggins is one of the main characters.
If I saw faces, maybe. So they change cast every season then?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly. The first 2 seasons had one recurring character that was killed off at the end of the second season, and this season has 2 characters from previous seasons. Pretty. I don't know. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, people are talking about it for sure.
Yeah,
and then same with Severance, because that new season dropped for that too.
Yeah,
right?
it's a few weeks ago it started.
Yeah, I need to start that. And then I saw somebody like super random but famous. Fuck, I can't remember. Like maybe an athlete or something was tweeting about getting on to Severance.
Oh, really?
And then I think the director's like, "Yeah, man, like we'll chat or something, like something super random."
Yeah, I feel like we're living in a time where if you're a celebrity or a top level influencer or
world's
whatever,
at your fingertips.
It kind of is, yeah.
And it's always made sense. It just makes more sense now that like attention sells, right? And
yeah.
Who has the most attention? It's these internet people. Like half of the celebrity NBA game. Not that it's like a huge indicator, but back in the day they had like Chris Rock and Chris Tucker or whatever. They had big movie stars, and now it's like a lot of social media folk. Like they had a couple Olympians, which was cool. They had like a high jumper, but if you can gather attention, you're probably gonna win the game. Like Dave Portnoy of Barstool, like is all over the news because he gathers a lot of attention. And so he's in different situations politically or financially, and Yeah, I mean, you gather attention, you find your way anywhere. In
Not-
movies.
Not to overly comment on anybody's appearance or whatever, but I think over the last 5 years, his face has aged a lot.
I mean,
like more than 5 years worth.
I never really even understood it or like followed that world a lot. Like I know now they basically produce a lot of podcasts and stuff, and he probably started. I know he started in like sports, but I do know the company does insanely well, so he's probably just stressed out of his brains.
They sold it too. He says,
really?
yeah,
He's just a part of it now.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. They sold it for a bunch.
Yeah, I'm sure. A lot of those companies, it is crazy how they've evolved. Like Complex, Complex was like kind of like a hip hop fashion magazine, and now I think they owned Hot Ones, right? Like they owned everything.
Yeah.
They bought it. Maybe they started it.
I think they did.
I think they started
Yeah, I
it and
think they
just
did.
sold it.
Yeah. Hot Ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did.
They started Hot Ones and just sold it, which is like, yeah, it is the new age media, right? Like you're not just going to put out a magazine anymore. You're going to fail, right? Like you have to do other shit. And a lot of them moved to YouTube channels and podcasts, which is cool. Vice or whatever, right? Because Vice was a magazine first, I assume, and then moved into YouTube. Where did it get most popular? YouTube, right?
YouTube, yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
They had like mini docs.
Yeah, I watched some of those. And some of that's actually like, I think that's kind of the main vein of YouTube, not to like circle around, but I know we've talked about like where YouTube is and shit. A lot of it seems like mini docs, and they're just like extra raw, like kind of the News 5 type shit.
Channel 5?
Yeah, Channel 5. Because there's like 5-6 dudes that do that. Some just going to like the most violent
Yeah, like hood or
neighborhoods.
some shit.
Yeah, or like interviewing, homeless people in Vegas, or the fentanyl crisis in Philadelphia, or whatever.
Like the San Francisco
Yeah.
people breaking into shit.
Yeah, just like the most raw documentaries ever. And those are interesting. As much as like shit content is out there, there is some like people producing like actually good shit.
I'm actually going to see a Australia-based YouTube cover band tomorrow night here in Sacramento. It's like their first tour in America.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're just really good. That people call it the greatest cover band in the world.
What's the name?
Hindley Street Country Club.
Interesting. Because there's a couple. There's
No
prob-
idea why they call that, but
There's probably like 5. Because I don't know why. I've always liked covers. And so that's, again, like YouTube. I've never really watched, but I always used to go for music and covers and acoustic sets and shit like that. There's like legitimately insanely talented cover bands. And they're everywhere. And they've been a thing. Right? Like I remember going to the state fair as a kid. And they're like, oh, like the Weedles are here, it's a Beatles cover band or whatever the fuck. But there's some like legitimately talented ones that
some more successful than others.
Yeah, some tour somehow. I don't know how, but YouTube has like, because I forgot the other one, something Road maybe. But they're just extremely talented and built full careers. Mostly because of YouTube, where you could tour as the Weedles or whatever the fuck, but you're probably not making real money. Where these YouTube channels have crushed it.
This Australian band like split 3 or 4 years ago, and not like, I don't think it was an acrimonious split. It's just that they just kind of wanted to go in different directions.
Yeah.
So the other guy has a studio in his basement, and that they used to record in some of the time, and he has a different channel called Sing It Live that also releases a new song every week. And when I say new song, it's all it's all covers. They don't do any originals at all. And then there's another one in Lexington. I don't know if there's Lexington, Tennessee, or Lexington, Kentucky. I don't know which one it is. Called Lexington Lab Band, though. There's also just excellent, but it's almost all like American music covers.
I could see those bands splitting very easily just based on the fact, like, I feel like if you're a musician, like, deep in your heart, you're going to get sick of doing covers. Like, eventually you're going to want to write your own music.
Yeah, I would think that's probably true.
Like, shout out Teddy Swims, who performed at the Grammys. I don't think we spoke about that. It was fucking rad to see his come up. But in the beginning, he sang covers on TikTok.
Yeah.
And crushed it. And then he slowly seeped his own shit in there. And then now he was like top 10 on the Billboard 100 for the last like 6 months.
Yeah, wasn't his Don't Stop Believing cover in one of our shirts?
Yeah, that's probably our biggest clothing Instagram because of that. Because he fucking crushes it, and his voice is insane and he's worth it. He just did you hear his new song with Giveon?
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
Yeah, it's so good. Like Giveon's R&B is just kind of like, I don't want to say it's dead, but like R&B is just not that popular right now, and Giveon, because if R&B was popular, Giveon would be the guy. Like Giveon can fucking sing, and he's like a hip hop R&B artist that no one knows because R&B is just not the it shit, like all this bullshit mumble rap's kind of the it shit. But he did a song Giveon recently that's so good too, and I'm sure that'll get on Billboard Top 100. But you know, like someone like that who's probably just so creative and such an artist and so skilled, I don't see, you know, he couldn't tour his whole life as covers. He'd probably just feel so tortured doing that.
You know what's weird? I was listening to a podcast about the Blues Brothers the other day.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, came out the same day as Empire Strikes Back.
Interesting.
In 1980.
Blues Brothers, I'm still so confused. It's just a movie, right?
Yeah. Well,
like it's not a real band.
Well, they did tour as a real band,
but after the movie.
The day that the movie dropped,
like it
started a tour.
Yeah, it was like made together.
But they played on Saturday Night Live. It's the first Saturday Night Live spinoff movie.
Because I saw that as like a kid, and I was like raised with old school music, you know, and so I've always been to this day confused on who the fuck they are. Like I know who the actors are, and I knew they were comedians.
Yeah. They performed on Saturday Night Live, and obviously, you know, it was Aykroyd and Belushi. Yeah. But Aykroyd was like a big fan of that style of music, which, by the way, isn't blues. It's R&B.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there isn't the Blues Brothers movie has no blues in it at all. No. It's all R&B.
Yeah, I don't know why that always confused the fuck out of me. My dad was a big Belushi fan. That's why I think it was around my life. I wanted to watch the Saturday Night Live.
I was going to say, did you watch that? I've only seen some of the musical performances. I've not seen.
Yeah, I just saw clips. But it seemed like everyone there was cool. I mean, I'm a big fan. Like, obviously, Saturday Night Live goes in waves depending on the cast often. You know, a lot of the writers seem semi-consistent. But, yeah, I saw the Adam Sandler clip, and despite the song not being that good, his heart was there in the crowd. I don't know if you saw that clip.
I didn't see that one.
It was so good because he's just, like, showing love to everyone who's been there, and obviously, like, Chris Farley and all the people that have passed. Who else just passed? Fuck, there's another famous Saturday Night Live guy that just passed. Whatever, you know, he's showing them all love. And Jack Nicklaus, which I didn't know because he's always at the Lakers games, but I guess he's such a recluse.
Oh, Nicholson.
Yeah, Nicholson. Sorry, I was thinking
Nichols
golf.
Is the golfer.
Yeah. He's been on my feet a lot lately, too. He's getting all political. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson. I guess he's a huge recluse, which I didn't know because he's famous for being at every fucking Lakers game ever. But everyone was freaking out that he showed up to this. And I guess he did it for Adam because they're really good buddies.
Over 300 celebrities.
Yeah, everyone. You look in the crowd and people are just like, you know every face.
Did you see the Backstreet Boys?
No. They just got a fucking residency in Vegas, though.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a giant fan or anything, but what's that song? Ain't Nothing But a Heartache. Yeah. They did that, and one of them has like serious vocal trouble, and like he was the first singer.
Oof.
It was like, oh man.
Some of that really is sad, you know, because
where are we going?
They were straight up talented, right? Like that was kind of the, you know, and again, this is like my old guy episode. Like music has gone to less talented people, you know, like popular music now isn't based on talent, right? It's based on trends and catching attention and whatever. I do feel like that was kind of the last era of talent actually making it. Like you can hate Christina Aguilera, but that bitch can sing. Like she's fucking good, you know, like Backstreet Boys, same thing. You can think they're fucking losers or whatever, but they could really dance and they could really sing at the time.
They really, I mean, except for that, you know, the one voice that was their very subpar, they sounded great.
But it's hard to look at them now. They all got beer bellies. They're all fucking balding. They're fucking. One of them, dude, it was the saddest clip. I think it was a Backstreet Boy. And again, I was a fan of them growing up, bro. I remember the first. I don't know if I've told this story, but you know, there's like a feeling you get. Some people don't get it, but like most people get attached to some kind of music, and you get like a feeling. The first feeling of hype I got from like a song, one of their fucking songs came on. I was like probably second, third grade, just on the radio, driving to a soccer game. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm going to fucking slide tackle the fuck out of a kid. Like I felt this energy that was insane. And ever since, you know, like a PR song, obviously in our sport's very popular. But like at that time I was like, fuck, this is making me feel crazy, you know, and I'm fucking 10 years old. But there's a really famous clip within the last 6 months of one of them performing solo, but doing the group songs because they're obviously not a solo act.
Right. Yeah.
At like it looked like a high school gymnasium. It was really, really bad. It was very.
Oh, no, that's sad.
Yeah, you get the like the fucking hot box effect of cringe. You get the group.
The hot box of cringe.
Yeah, you get the group embarrassment. What's it called? There's like a real term for it people use. Fuck, I forgot. Secondhand embarrassment, I guess.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound as good. I thought it was a more creative term. But yeah, you're just watching like, fuck, I'm embarrassed for all of us.
That's not good.
Poor Backstreet Boys. That's kind of a random Saturday Night Live ad. Like, obviously they were popular, but why?
Yeah.
I wonder why they chose them.
I don't know, but man, every celebrity in the audience was standing and singing along and stuff.
Maybe that's why. Because the age of the celebrities in the audience.
Yeah, it was. I mean, what I saw of it was fun. I was gone all weekend, and we just didn't watch TV most of the time.
I'm just not up that late.
Yeah, I think it was actually in prime time though. I think it was actually on Sunday in prime time.
Yeah,
but,
and sometimes here they'll be on at 9 because they'll replay the East Coast version or play live the East Coast version.
So we were up in Mendocino. My brother and sister-in-law who live in Virginia flew out, and I don't remember exactly where they connected. I think it might have been Dallas, but I'm not sure. In the airport, waiting for their next flight, saw James Hetfield of Metallica.
Yeah.
They were, pretty blown away by that, I guess.
How's that guy not flying private?
I don't know. That's a good question. And I think a lot of celebrities don't, especially who are,
Metallica's got to have crazy money, though.
You would think, yeah. I mean, they made their money when you could still make it.
But even now, just on replays of Spotify, that guy's probably getting a check.
Yeah, probably a check, but nobody makes money off Spotify. Artists don't make money off Spotify.
I feel like the top 1% do.
Yeah,
I thought it was like a YouTube deal. Like if you're the guy, like Mr. Beast is fuck. Because people say the same thing about. They say the same thing about YouTube, but then you see fucking Mr. Beast dashboard. He's pulling in $4 million a month.
Yeah,
you're like, you can't make up money on YouTube anymore. Well, for Mr. Beast.
So I'm actually going to take the opportunity to punch down on my brother-in-law just a little bit. I guess he was in a wine shop in the airport. I'm not really even sure exactly how this happened, but he saw a bottle of wine that said Sandman. So he thought, man, but it wasn't Sandman. It was Sandeeman. Thought this, it's a sign. I should just buy this and bring it. So he spent about $90 on this bottle of wine.
Nice. Because he saw the Metallica guy first?
Yes.
Yeah, that is a sign. I'd do the same. I like that.
Yes. So he cracks it open, however, and I have the image of his face when he got the first taste of it.
Oh no!
It's a port, which is a dessert wine.
Yeah,
it's super sweet.
Yeah,
and it was really good. But But he's like, he wasn't the only. Everyone, 2 or 3 people took a sip at the same time. We're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
this is not.
Not exactly what the occasion called
for.
No.
So it came home with me. So
I don't know if I'd recognize Metallica if I walked through them or walked around. Although Dallas, I think, is probably the only place. I'm trying to think of like wild celebrity sightings. Because even like my cousins and shit, like, oh, you live in California, you've seen shit. Like, no, bro, you don't see nothing. And I've been in LA a ton. I've never seen anything. But when you go to expos, but that doesn't count. Like I saw Bones Jones on the street, but like I knew he was there for the Fit Expo. So were we. Like I feel like that doesn't count. I saw Carrot Top cruising around Dallas. And again, like if it was Metallica or even like a bigger name, like fucking Ryan Reynolds, I don't know if I notice him in an airport because I'm like headphones on and I'm just trudging, But like this was steroid Carrot Top. And so you're seeing a bright red afro with like huge biceps. Like there's no way I couldn't see him. I was just like, what the fuck's going on? He's just standing in the middle of the airport. Yeah, I wonder. Dallas is a huge hub, right? Like Dallas, Colorado, Atlanta. Those are huge airport hubs. But even still, I don't know, man. I think if I'm Metallica, I'm flying. I'm spending that 20 G's for a private for sure.
I think I've said this on the show before, but several years ago, ended up sitting near Alice Cooper. In Phoenix Airport.
Yeah. Wasn't Alice Cooper? I think Alex Cooper was around in Vegas. But again, like Vegas, I don't really count either. I like one of the Olympias. I think I saw him. But my dad had crazy stories. Like my dad, I think he was like because like in the 80s he made pretty good money versus what was going on, so he'd fight before we were born, of course. He would fight first class with my mom, and first class wasn't like exact, now it's 10 times as much, then it was like double, and he was like sitting next to Jordan.
Oh, really?
Like shit like that. And then like my dad, even recently, not recently, but when I was alive, was in LA on a work trip, and like he's like, yeah, I saw Magic Johnson. My dad wasn't one to like tell stories or jokes or anything either. He's like, yeah, I saw Magic Johnson at the gas station. Like I had him sign a napkin. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And like I see nobody. I'm in LA every other week for the last 10 years. I've never seen nobody famous.
I have seen a few celebrities in LA, but not like top tier people.
Yeah.
They were like, B, C level.
That's still fun,
at
though.
The time.
It is still just fun to see. Like, all the celebrities I've seen or, like, shook hands with were, like, at events where they're supposed to be. Like the celebrity golf tournament. Like, I fucking talked to Ray Romano and Cheech and Chong or whatever. That's not that cool.
Cheech and Chong contact high.
I don't know how they
totally
get invited to the Tahoe, like, prestigious celebrity golf tournament in 2015. Like, what the fuck are Cheech and Chong doing? They're just selling pot. I get their pot ads all the time on like my Twitter.
CBD.
Yeah.
What's the CBD? Well, let's bring this to a close with one thing. I actually was looking at Reddit. We were talking about silly powerlifting rules. I was thinking about maybe the top 3, but honestly, let's just go with our individual, like, stupidest powerlifting rule for competition. What would work for you as your top?
One more time. Sorry.
Your your choice for stupidest powerlifting rule, competition rule.
I mean, the easy one is like elbow depth, right?
Yeah, that one's really dumb.
That's got to be the easiest one. Because then, like, yeah, are we going into a range of motion on the deadlift, obviously? I feel like if you do that one, then we have to, like, eliminate sumo.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we're range of motion arguers, right? But then all of it is just dumb in general because it's all based on biomechanics, and someone with short femurs has a natural advantage. But again, that's sport, right? Like, we're not going to... I know they have them recreationally, but we're not going to make a basketball league with 6 foot and under. Although that is a recreational thing, we're not going to... You want the best to be the fucking best, right? So if they got a fucking giant rib cage... Like, we've covered elbow depth forever, but, if you're fat, if you got a huge belly and huge pecs and stubby arms, impossible to hit elbow depth.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably number 1.
Well, number 1 for me has to be any rule regarding underwear.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's pretty bad as well. That is pretty bad.
I mean,
unless they're worried about our microplastics, and that's why they want white cotton underwear, in which case, thank you guys for protecting our nuts.
Yeah, our fertility is at stake.
Yeah, the IPF cares about our nuts.
Our brains. I heard the other day that 0.5% of our human brains at this point is microplastics.
I'm sure. That's why we're all stupid.
If you get much more than 0.5%, you start losing IQ points.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I am for all that. Like, I'm for, like, wearing cotton clothing and shit. Like, but it's also one of those things where, like, they say cancer's everywhere. Like, bro, try to avoid it. You know, like, it is true. Like, what am I? Your car seat's fucking plastic. Like, everything's plastic.
Yeah.
You're gonna be stuck. We're going to number 2. You got one, Sebastian? You got a dumbass rule?
I think the cursing.
Cursing get a little weird.
Yeah, but I mean, there are kids that go to meets, but still.
Yeah, you're from our generation. Yeah. Where Jim and I come from, you fucking you're screaming fuck as you get under the bar. No one cares. Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, there should probably be more of I don't want to say a spectrum of a rule, because rules do have to be black and white, but there has to be like a judgment call. And you're right. I think in the USAPL, it's any cursing on the platform is technically a violation. Yeah. Where it should be more like a technical foul in basketball. Like, if you're cursing at someone, like, intent should kind of matter in those cases, or like maybe not intent, but like situational, where the judge should make a call based on how you're saying it.
So a dots deduction and not a...
Yeah, red light.
Not a red light.
Because they mostly give warnings, right, for the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they'll take away a light.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, I think some of those rules are a little too vibey, where, it should depend on what you're doing. If you're cursing at someone, like, if you're so excited and you let out a fuck, like, let them have some fun. It is like... I do understand again. Yeah, there's kids in the crowds, but there's kids in the crowd fucking everywhere, and cursing isn't illegal. You know, like
Right.
And that poor kid, they're gonna complain, and then their mom's gonna let them go home, and they're watching rated R movies. You know, so like don't bring your kid. You know, or do the little earmuffs. And again, within reason. If you're screaming fuck 1,000 times and you're being a dickhead, yeah, give them a red light. That's not a bad one. Not a bad one, because that is mostly USAPL.
Yeah.
Talk about the tested boys being soft.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's all I got for this time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got C.T. Fletcher, Magnificent Obsession coming up. And then I think we're going to do Generation Iron, the very first movie with Dean and the boys. So if you want to catch up and watch the movies before while you listen to us, we're going to review as much fitness as possible. They did just drop non-fitness, but Gold something. The Olympic basketball from this summer documentary. They filmed the whole thing, and I heard just the interviews with like Curry and them are really good. So that's a potential down the road. And then there was one more. C-Bomb's obviously coming. What's that?
Magazine Dreams.
Magazine Dreams. Yeah.
Which one was that?
It's the bodybuilding.
Not C-Bomb.
No. It's a fictional. It's,
yeah. With what's his name?
Yeah.
Megan Good's husband.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's never been Majors.
Jonathan Majors.
Dude, no one's even gonna know who Megan Good is. You know who Megan Good is?
No.
Dude, Megan Good was the babe growing up, and he ended up marrying her this summer, like secretly. Megan Good is a babe, but she's like not been in any movies or shows probably in 20 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Michael Hearn is in this movie too.
Oh, as an actor?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fire. Yeah, we should do that. That was the one that they filmed and didn't release, right? It's from like 2021 or something.
22, 20.
That would be good.
Like that.
We'll probably do that this spring then when we all get back. And then there was one more documentary. Yeah, the C-Bomb, obviously. Whatever. But for sure, CTs, for sure, Generation Iron, Third Street Barbell, Sacramento, California. Come visit us, 3sb.co for all your clothing needs. I'm Son of Mike.
I am at the...
I'm Sebastian _Brambila on IG.
I'm at the Jim McDonald, all the social media. This show's 50% facts, percent is a word, and 50 is just numbers. 50% facts is a Spreaker podcast in association with iHeartMedia on the Obscure Celebrity Network, and I have to go work on our door access system. Talk to you later. Bye. Yeah, we can just straight out. The key tags still work, but